the bottom of the barrel. Here we are. It's pretty dark and gloomy, but around these parts we can find some truly questionable stuff with today's video, maybe going even beyond questionable. For over 30 years, Pixar has stood the test of time as the leading 3D animation movie company in the entire world. And although Pixar produced nothing but classics in the late 90s and even into the 2000s, it has steadily declined in both terms of quality and mainstream acceptance and popularity. And the truth couldn't be more evident with the piece of trash known as Lightyear. Toy Story was one of the most beloved franchises in the history of animation, but after the third movie, we not only got one bad movie, but an even worse prequel. While Toy Story 4 was easily one of the worst movies in the history of Pixar, Lightyear definitely takes the cake, and likely will for future generations to come. But the worst part of that movie is it had absolutely no substance whatsoever. It was just a totally boring and lame story that had nothing to do with the original Buzz Lightyear story. In a film that was filled with nothing but hot garbage, there was only one great and redeemable scene to the whole movie. And the greatest scene of that entire movie was a lesbian kiss. While I meant that statement in the least homophobic way possible and have nothing but love and respect for the LGBT community, you know when this is the best scene of a children's movie and a Disney Pixar movie at that, you know the company is under hot water, and the ratings and the box office numbers prove to be just that. While many of us have clamored for a Buzz Lightyear backstory for years and years, there is one iconic Disney character who deserves it a lot more. A popular character whose name and image alone deserves a major explanation and backstory. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about Scar from The Lion King. Although The Lion King would have come out 30 years ago as of June of 1994, there have been so many questions that fans, kids, parents, grandparents, and people from all generations have all asked themselves. Disney really fumbled the bag by not giving us this backstory. Disney making Lightyear and not this remains one of their top 10 biggest missed opportunities, and is sad to say because so many people would have loved to see this backstory. Without question, it would have made at least 100 million more at the box office, if not more. And while many sources have shared small bits and pieces about Scar's backstory, all of them have completely different scenarios and answers, including his role in the Pride Lands, his rocky relationship with his brother Mufasa, and why he called himself Scar, but most of all how he got that iconic mark in the first place. But the questions just absolutely don't stop from there. We want to know more, going into who his family really was, who he was before he got his scar, how he betrayed his family, what exactly made him join forces and start associating with the hyenas, what led him to murder his brother Mufasa, and what began his obsession with becoming king. There is literally multiple directions that they can take this story down, and the movie will be guaranteed to sell tickets and make at least $500 million at the box office. And the one type of storyline guaranteed to sell tickets is a transformation story. Who doesn't like a great rags to riches story or rise to fall story? Exactly. And there are multiple directions that they could take this movie. They could easily give him the Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader type of transformation story, to where he starts off as a good innocent kid, becomes a hormonal teenager, and becomes evil. They could easily make the story similar to Anakin's by pretty much allowing his and Mufasa's relationship heavily mirror Anakin and Obi-Wan's, and do a really slow burning transformation to the evil side, just like Palpatine got in Anakin's ear and Anakin joined the Sith. The hyenas could do the same thing to Scar and he could join their army. And that would honestly be perfect storytelling if what Scar said, it was the hyenas who were the real enemy. It was their fault, it was their idea, and while it may have been his decision to kill Mufasa in the first place, the hyenas probably brainwashed his mind into hating his brother and wanting to take the throne, because you gotta think about it like this. Lions and hyenas hate each other, both in Disney and in real life. And that part would actually tell for a really fascinating story. And they could even take it a step further and take it out of familiar playbook. And just like Anakin lost to Obi-Wan on Mustafar and Obi-Wan cut off his legs, they could easily have it to where Scar and Mufasa get into a fight, and Mufasa gives him his scar and just leaves him there. You know, that would be good storytelling, and it would explain why Scar would want his revenge on Mufasa the same way that Vader wanted revenge on Obi-Wan. And if you really think about it, Scar and Darth Vader are very similar villains. Both betrayed and murdered their so-called brothers after being defeated by them once. Both had an epic rivalry with a family member. Both have physical scars, and both are driven on revenge, lust, and power. And the fact that they both ditched their original names and took on a new identity once they got their scars makes it even more interesting. But yet another possible story route that they can go down is the one similar to Prince Zuko off of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Both born into a royal family, was rejected by their father who ruled the kingdom, and got physical scars on their left eyes that define their whole identity. And having that scar be a symbol of the mark of the banished prince would actually be a very interesting part of the story and give it a lot more depth. And if you notice, both Anakin and Zuko's stories were done in trilogies. Both of them. While you could argue that The Lion King definitely deserved to be a franchise or at least a trilogy, a prequel trilogy would have actually done a whole lot of numbers. It's really a lore that should have been discovered years ago. And the fact that Disney really hasn't pulled the plug on that and have come out with all these bullshit projects like Lightyear just really shows how out of touch Disney is with its current audience. They could easily get Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and people who work on shows like Clone Wars and Avatar and Legend of Korra to do a series like this out on Disney Plus. It would just make millions of Disney fans happy. And this is something that needed to be done years ago, and hopefully we finally get it one day. A 3-season series or a 6-episode series similar to Tales of the Jedi would be absolutely perfect for something to go on Disney Plus. And while we all know this story would have possibly made a fortune at the box office, we honestly wouldn't mind a series either, because to this very day, it's one of the greatest stories in both animation and fiction that has never been fully told.